Hello and welcome. I'm Lucinda and today I'm going to be making the Ophelia dress by Thrills and Stitches. I have a wedding to attend in a week and a day's time, which is why I was having a look for appropriate patterns for guest wedding event dresses. The requirements are, firstly, the pattern's not too complicated. Second, the pattern actually hopefully suits me and what I like. 3, I'm hoping it'll be a comfortable dress to wear, that's the goal. And 4, hopefully that it's warm-ish. I'm going for long sleeves anyway is my plan. I'm not going to a wedding in Spain, it's in the UK and it's the first week of March, so I want long sleeves. I also have no other backup plan, so if this goes badly, which I really hope it doesn't, then I will be doing a panic shop next Thursday evening in the hopes that I will find anything vaguely suitable in a rush. So I really hope this goes well. I printed the pattern off yesterday. I've laid them out on the floor loosely, and I also need to work out which size I'm gonna do as well and commit to it at this stage before sticking and cutting. I think the medium should give me a little bit of leeway for tweaking if I need to, but I am worried that the hips are going to be slightly too large for my, well, non-curved shape, I'm afraid. Alas, I might need to take the hips in a little bit, but that's fine. I really want this dress to be as perfect as possible because I do want to wear it to an event. I know people seem to be able to do a just cut out the fabric. I was looking at the Thrills and Stitches tutorial and she just cuts the pattern piece out like this, and then as she's going it is able to cut a seam allowance on top, which is just so phenomenally impressive. She must have done these patterns so many times to know, or just making things so many times to know what to do. But honestly, I can't live that life right now. I really don't want to mess this up, so I'm going to be precise about it, and I'm going to draw on my 1 centimeter with my pencil and ruler and try and do my best. I'm really enjoying the overlapping system, so I haven't actually had to cut around half a border of a page or anything like that. The overlap means that I just need to stick these pieces together rather than having to trim any borders on this side and top bit, which is actually so much more convenient than some of the patterns that I've tried. Okay, so last weekend I spent a long time making 2 mock-ups with my changes that I had made on the bodice. So I'll talk you through those. The areas that I have tweaked are design alterations just to suit me, hopefully, because I figured it would be easier to just follow the pattern. But this is the whole reason that I'm trying to learn how to make my own clothes, is because I really want to be able to tailor things to suit my body type and what it looks like and how I like to live in it. So for the Ophelia dress, my changes were 3 ideas onto the base pattern, which is pattern view A, I think. So I'm doing the midi dress with the ruffle at the bottom. So the alterations that I'm going to make are the base pattern has a very round, high neckline. I think that would look fine and quite nice on me, but especially because I want to add long sleeves to it, and it's going to be quite a long dress already, I am going to give it a slight V-neck. I think it'll look slightly better on my quite broad-shouldered frame, basically. So I've added a V at the top, which is what you can see in the white pattern draft, and that actually, the V wasn't high enough. So then in my second, in the sage, I've made it lower. The third and final trail, I've done it kind of, I think about 2 centimeters up from the green sage draft version. So it took me 3 tries, and I think I'm happy with the neckline V where it is. The other thing then that I did to complement the neckline is to triangle the bust area up to a point rather than doing the lovely flowing shape, which kind of complemented, I was hoping, the V neckline that I'm putting in, that you'd have 2 points up and down here on the bodice. But little did I understand that it was actually hugely difficult to sew the point in. So in my first draft, there was quite a big point, and I found that it scrunched up a lot of the fabric, which was very difficult to work with and make it look neat, which made me nervous. So in my sage draft, I then completely took it out and made it to the pattern. And the pattern is really, really easy to sew. If you follow the tutorial that Thrills and Stitches has on her channel, it's really good and it's really easy. But I got the idea actually from another YouTube maker who'd done a review of the Thrills and Stitches Ophelia pattern. So I will see, and I really like the look and the idea of it, especially as I was changing the neckline. So in my third draft, I have added a peak in to a point, but I've made it significantly less peak and pointy than the one that I made in this first white draft of the form. So it was okay to sew, but pretty unpleasant still. So to be honest, if I made it a fourth draft, I'd probably take it out altogether and stick to the actual pattern, because it gave me such a nightmare to sew. I don't think it was worth it, but I cannot face changing my pattern again. So I'm going to learn to love it and live with it and hopefully get over it and through it. I think it'll look nice anyway. So neckline, point under the bust, and then I also had to lengthen the bust area, and so this white one is to the scale of the pattern. The sage one is added a few centimeters here, which funnily enough drops the bust line way down too low. So I should have been more cautious with that one. I think I've got a long body, but not that long. So I think I added in my third, I've added on 1 centimeter to the pattern piece that is this front pattern piece. And obviously I also had to do that then to match on the back panels as well. And fourth and final change, I realise now there are 4, I am changing the sleeves. I think the pattern gives a little cropped sleeve, which is a puff, and obviously it's really cute. I think it looks lovely for summer, but it is winter dress that I'm making. I really wanted like long sleeve, and also, as I mentioned, I have quite a broad frame shoulders, so I don't want to add too much puff either. So I have also deflated some of the puff. I think it has worked and taken a lot of the puff out of the sleeve so that it's only a delicate puff rather than quite a dramatic puff. On this white sleeve, I've obviously added, it is still a little bit gathered at the top, there's a bit of a puff, and there's a lot of volume still. I think it still looks really cute and it'll tie it in nicely with the rest of the dress. So after those 4 details, which took me all weekend to work out because I'm an absolute novice and winging it and don't really know what I'm doing, so I had to watch a lot, research a lot, and trial and error make 3 different versions of the pattern, which I then ran out of fabric, so I've called it a day at 3. I'm now going to get on to using those patterns that I've kind of reworked and remade. I'm hoping now I'm ready to cut out the main fabric. I'll show you the third and final draft that I made, which is actually turning into my lining. So I've essentially made the inner lining shell. And the only other thing that actually I have done is I have zigzag stitched the entirety of all of the lining panels, and I will do that on the main body of the dress as well, just to ensure that pieces are secure, like the fabric isn't going to fray. I don't have an overlocker. The best I've got is a zigzag stitch. It's Sunday morning, 10 a.m, and I have the rest of the day to get as far along in this project as I possibly can. So what I did yesterday, everything is cut out, everything is zigzagged around the hem. I also bulk did the darts, so all the darts in the skirt pieces are done, all of the darts in the back pieces are done. I am just starting off putting the back pieces together at the moment because this is nice. A nice little simple easy one to ease my way into the morning at least. But I am optimistic at this stage that it can be achieved in a day, fingers crossed. And the next easy-ish piece I'm going to do is attaching the skirt pieces together. both the two back panels down the middle up to the point where the zipper is going to go in, and then both of the side seams, so the back is attached to the front and I've got a giant circle. On this back panel piece, I've got up to the stage where I've got to the point of a little notch, and so I'm going to do what is recommended in the Thrills and Stitch tutorial and do a basting stitch now. So you can hopefully see that change in stitch length from the really short to the really long basting stitch right there, which is going to be making my life easier in the long run. Here is where my filming became abysmal. So I'm going to give you a quick summary of the process instead. I attached the front bodice pieces together. A gathered basting stitch was involved. Next, I attached the back panels to the front panels via the side seams and shoulders, and I tried to finish it off by ironing down the joins tidy, and I melted the back of my left panel of fabric. So pretty fuming at myself, to say the least. I looked at the dog sunbathing for a while to calm my nerves. Then I got to redoing the left back panel. I seam dripped what was there, cut out a new piece of fabric, zigzag stitched all around the edges, added another dart, joined them together, the both back panel pieces, and finally rejoined the left back panel piece to the rest of the bodice to get back to where I had been before. Gentle ironing only was ensued from then on. There's a quick coffee break. Next, I took the long rectangle piece of fabric destined to be the ruffle at the bottom of the skirt and attached the two short sides together to create a giant band of fabric. I hemmed one end and added a basting stitch on the other. I gathered the basting stitch side and sewed it onto the bottom of my main skirt piece. Now, here's where things take a turn from both the pattern and my original intended plan. I invested a lot of time making sleeves. I made a channel at the end of each cuff, threaded elastic through the bottom of them both, sewed up the sleeves, attached them onto the dress, and I tried it on and I absolutely hated it. Here's a recreated pinned view just so you get a feel for the sleeves. I'm overwhelmed, I'm drowning in fabric, and it's giving Maggie Smith, Old Lady Grantham, Granny in Downton Abbey, who is iconic, but was also out of date in her own period drama time context. I mean, I've always wanted to make historic inspired dresses, but this is not what I intended for the occasion. So I quickly made the cutthroat decision to scrap sleeves altogether and hope for good weather on the day. I moved on to finishing the dress by attaching the lining to the outer shell, which I realized was a little bit more difficult without any sleeves to cover up the joins around the armholes, but somehow made it work through trial and error. And it doesn't look too bad. It's good enough to wear, at least to me. Before I show the end results, here's a quick cost breakdown for the project. The pattern cost me £12, obviously through Etsy Thrills and Stitches shop. The outer shell fabric was bought from Fabworks online. It was called Gallery Daisy's Special Occasion Satin. That cost me £24 for 4 meters. That was definitely more than I needed. I do have a good amount left over, but it was a just in case worry. I also bought 2 reels of matching thread for £4.20 altogether, and then lining fabric poplin, which I bought 3 meters of £18.60. Again, definitely bought too much, especially as I only did the kind of mini version underneath for the lining. A 56 centimeter invisible zip cost me £4, and I also bought 1 meter of elastic for 80p, which obviously I didn't end up using because I didn't end up keeping the sleeves, but I'm going to include that anyway. Total project came to £63.60 and a hell of a lot of time and effort invested. I would love to track next time, but it was too much this time for my brain to handle, and I just needed to get on with the project. I was on a bit of a deadline crunch, but I think it would be really interesting to really tot up how much time it is taking from each project. So I might try and do that next time. Anyways, this whole project has been a really great learning experience, and I did end up wearing the dress to the wedding. Here's the photo evidence. The best compliment I received was someone wondering whether it's from anthropology. I loved that it could possibly almost be mistaken for a professional shop belt job, just as long as you don't look too closely, and especially at the back. Here's what the dress ended up turning out like. It undoubtedly has issues, but this is the first dress that I've tried to make since GCSE textiles when I was like 16. So honestly, I'm still pretty pleased with how it turned out. There are plenty of ways to improve if I made a second iteration. I just enjoyed the process, loved learning, and we'll see what's up next. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time for another overly ambitious project for my skill level, no doubt. And bye for now.